Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we had disastrous results in Green Bay and Cubs clinching the division. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season starts in just a couple of weeks, in two weeks, I believe. So head on over to icehogs.com, get some tickets, hat, shirt, jersey, and more, and tell them Swirsky Sports sent you. All right, Alex. It is a high of high and low of low weeks, if we've ever had one here in Chicago.
Yeah, to say the least. I think that there's obviously one topic we are very happy to discuss, and one other topic that we probably just kind of want to rip the Band-Aid off, so to speak.
Yeah, I actually want to rip the Band-Aid off.
I totally agree with you, yes.
So, the Bears are who we thought they were. The Bears, after a big win against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, on a short week, went up to Green Bay and the ultimate poop the bed. I don't know what else to call it, but poop in the bed.
Honestly, it might have been the most embarrassed I've been as a Bears fan in my entire life. I'll be completely honest with you. And yes, this does include that back-to-back Green Bay New England in 2014. This was worse.
I mean, my biggest problem is that let me restart. My biggest problem is that this team isn't willing to look at reality in the face and admit where there's problems. It starts off that this team is ill-prepared. Is in many, many games, even the games that they win, it starts out poorly, and they have to adjust on the fly. They're never prepared for games. This is another game where Green Bay got off to a really good start, and the defense as a whole, other than the first half of the first quarter, played pretty well, but they just weren't prepared for exactly what everybody else in the world knew that Green Bay was going to do. And then they come out on offense, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's just, this team is just not prepared to play games. It's like, other teams are prepared when the kickoff happens. They're ready to go. And it's like the Bears need half a quarter to a quarter to figure out what's going on, and then they start playing.
And, it's getting to the point where, especially in that game, if you're going to take time to adjust and you're already down multiple scores, then you've dug yourself into a really deep hole, and that's essentially what happened in the game on Thursday. But I think the thing that I would say the most, the Bears just shot themselves in the foot time after time again. And as good as Green Bay is, as some nice things that they did do, it felt more like the Bears lost that game than the Packers winning.
I'm going to throw some in the camp where Green Bay outplayed them. But, yeah, I mean, there wasn't even a level field to be able to make the comparison fairly of how bad the Bears performed or how good they performed, because they shot themselves in the foot so many times. From play calling, you go from a game when you absolutely hid your dog poop quarterback, Mike Glennon, and you pounded the ball against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a pretty darn good defense, and you rushed for over 200 yards. And what did you do after you're down 7 against Green Bay on hostile territory with a dog poop quarterback? Is you come out there and you try to throw the ball. Why? If that's your game plan, is to mask how bad your quarterback is for as long as possible and just run the ball, then you need to go out there and run the ball and establish dominance, especially against the Green Bay defense that's banged up.
And you really think that either way, the Packers, the coaches, the defense is afraid of Mike Glennon? Regardless, I don't think so.
No, they all laughed and joked about Jay Cutler. What do you think they do about Mike Glennon? They were like, yeah, we'll just intercept him too.
And those interceptions that he threw were atrocious.
Oh, they were. That was just a debacle. Let's just go right at the pink elephant in the room. Mike Glennon sucks. There's no two ways about it. Maybe he can read a defense. I don't know, but he's scared. He won't throw downfield because he's scared of throwing downfield. And when
there were guys open too.
And when he does throw downfield, he makes the wrong read. His delivery is so slow, and he stares down his receivers.
And he's too busy looking into space, and by the time he wants to do something, he's on the ground.
Yeah, he has no pocket awareness. And it's one thing, there's a lot of guys in the NFL that have had phenomenal careers that aren't the most athletic of guys, but either they're strong in the pocket, like Ben Roethlisberger. They're guys that are strong, and you really have to bring them down to bring them down. There's guys like Peyton Manning who are just so smart and have a good release, and they know how to step up in the pocket and they have good awareness. Or Tom Brady, who is another one who can step up in the pocket and has amazing pocket awareness and a quick release and such a command of the offense. Then there's Mike Glennon. His release is slow. He doesn't understand. He can't feel the pressure, and his delivery's slow. He stares down his receivers, so guys jump on it. I don't understand why he's still the quarterback right now.
You know what I said after this game? We all know what we want. We can't hide it. No one's going to hide it. No one's going to tell you otherwise. We all want to see Mitchell Trubisky play, and I certainly do too. But I think at the end of the day, the very least that I want is a change at quarterback. I would rather they put Mark Sanchez out there for the next game than Mike Glennon again. I will be less upset if they do that than putting Mike Glennon. As long as you make a change in quarterback, that is at least some move in a direction that says, hey, we realize this isn't working.
Yeah, you had the exact point I was going to make. Is I understand if you say, all right, Mitchell Trubisky is with no wide receivers out there and him still, learning the offense. Maybe it's not the best time to put him out there.
Right.
That if that's your evaluation, that's fine. Mark Sanchez has been a quarterback in this league longer than both of those two put together. He's been to how many? Two NFC or AFC championships. He's not a good quarterback, but he's been there, and he's been a starting quarterback for a number of years.
He can't be worse than Mike Glennon. He can't be worse than Mike Glennon.
If we clearly know the Mike Glennon experience is a failure. If it's not Mitch Trubisky time, it has to be Mark Sanchez time.
Right. And this kind of goes into the other point that I'm sure you're going to agree with too. It's also the way of how the coaching staff is handling it with the media and the public. if they weren't so secretive and, oh, well, he gives us the best chance, that's also what drives us crazy, because it just gives the idea of them being delusional and them not having a plan. If they actually came out and said, look, we don't think he's ready to play this year, we are going to sit him, and we are going to use this year to plan for the future. If you came out and said that, we would be more accepting of it. But if you come out and say that we have the best chance to win with Mike Glennon, when that is clearly not the case, that is what makes us angry, and that is the BS that we've been fed for many weeks.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm at the point where I think this is a Ryan Pace decision, and he has the backing of the McCaskey family, and John Fox is stuck with this because as much as John Fox, I'm not taking blame away from John Fox as a whole, because there's a lot of blame to be had all around.
Absolutely.
But the one place where I can say I don't blame John Fox is I think the Mike Glennon starting quarterback and do not start Mitch Trubisky is a Ryan Pace mandate, and he's not allowed to, because John Fox is a guy who benched a quarterback and put in what's his face that from Florida, that Tim Tebow. He put in Tim Tebow and rode Tim Tebow to the playoffs and started him in a playoff game because he had benched somebody else. So he's not afraid to make a quarterback change. I think this is a Ryan Pace decision.
Yeah, it's probably a good point, and it wouldn't really surprise me if it was. Yeah, it's a very good point. It probably is.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything else. Where I put the John Fox blame is this team isn't ready to play. They come out flat. Backups look lost.
No discipline.
No discipline. I mean, even a guy like Quentin Demps, who is a Pro Bowler and a veteran player, and he looked really lost out there before we lost him for the season with a broken arm. I mean, that guy wasn't ready to play. You had a veteran, former Pro Bowler who's not ready to play. How are you going to get young players in a rebuild ready to play?
Exactly.
And the biggest red flag for me about Mike Glennon is other players on this team are starting to make little veiled comments about how there needs to be a quarterback change, namely Akeem Hicks.
Yep. And Akeem Hicks right now is arguably, the way this year has gone, he's arguably your best player. And I think that speaks a lot of volume coming from him. And I can't remember who it was, but I thought there was a comment from one of the receivers, like Kendall Wright or something. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I heard how he was saying, or someone was suggesting that there's not a lot of sync on this offense, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Receivers are dropping passes, and a lot of the media is trying to spin that a little bit as, well, the receivers are bad. But just think about how many bad receivers that Tom Brady has taken and made into good receivers.
Look at Jay Cutler in 2015, for goodness sake.
Yeah, it's a good quarterback can make a receiver better. And that's what you expect. That's why you drafted Mitch Trubisky and you traded up to number 2 to get him, is you expect him to make the other players on offense better.
Right, exactly. And, I question and say, would they be making these same excuses about the receivers if Jay Cutler was here? Probably not. You would hear it's all on him, but every time that he throws an interception, Mike Glennon does, you'll hear like Jim Miller make 10,000 excuses for him, and, there's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Mike Glennon, although he has not started a ton of games in the NFL, he's been in the NFL for a good number of years.
Yeah.
And when he signed to the Bears, his job should have been, I'm going to learn this offense starting now. Not, oh, once training camp rolls around, let me learn it. Is you take your playbook, you learn it. So when you come to training camp, you hit the ground running. And I've heard some quote unquote media experts say that they were at training camp, which most of us were not, and that Mitch Trubisky didn't look that great, and that he had his ups and downs. And I'm sure that's true, but it's either time to put him in because the season's a quarter over, and you're in last place. So a quarter of the season is over, and you are in last place again. Is you either put your rookie quarterback in and give him the opportunity to learn and on the fly, on the job, like Houston is doing with Deshaun Watson, and I'll get to that more in a second. Or you say, we can't win with Mike Glennon. Players are getting upset. We've got to make a change and put Mark Sanchez in. Those are the options.
Right. Yep.
You can't. Staying the course is not an option.
No, it's not. It's the last thing you want to do. If you're going to say, we're going to look to the future and we're going to use this to sit Mitch Trubisky, you still have to make a change and put in Mark Sanchez this next game. You have to.
I mean, if you go and you win this Monday night game against Minnesota, suddenly you're right back in this. You're not in last place anymore. You've leapfrogged somebody. And you're not that far behind Detroit. And suddenly you build momentum. But you have to be able to win this game. And if your game plan is, we're just going to pound the ball, and then throw only when we need to, then you know what? It doesn't matter who you have a quarterback. Might as well put in a quarterback that the rest of the team is behind. And the thing is, you can lie to the fans all you want and say, this is our quarterback, this is who we all rally behind. The locker room knows who the quarterback should be.
Exactly.
And Mike Glennon is not a leader. He's even admitted that he had to learn things about being a leader from Jameis Winston when Jameis Winston was a rookie and took his job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I give Glennon credit for at least admitting it. You know, he doesn't pretend to be a leader and is actually not. At least he admits he isn't.
Yeah. I mean, and Houston, they recognized that Tom Savage was not their quarterback, and they made that decision. And they were like, you know what? We didn't want to have to start Deshaun Watson, but we're going to do so. And they knew he wasn't ready. And so if you looked, the first game, I think it was against Cincinnati that he played, they ran pretty much the same game plan the Bears did against Pittsburgh. I watched 4 consecutive series of that game, and Deshaun Watson didn't throw a pass. It was run, either first down or punt. The run, first down or punt, run, first, and so on and so forth. And then they eased his way into it. All right, he felt comfortable taking the snaps. He felt comfortable handing off. He felt comfortable making the calls. He felt comfortable seeing the defense come at him. So the next game, he got to throw a little more. He's going to grow into that. If your game plan is going to be pound the ball, Mitch Trubisky can hand off. He showed you in the last game of the preseason or whatever, he could hand off.
That's all he did was hand off.
Yeah, you can do that. But you know what? When it comes to 3rd and 5, and you're like, crap, I don't know if we can run this 5 yards when they know it's 3rd and 5, is you've got a quarterback that can roll out, and he can throw on the run. And, you know, that makes those screen passes that much more dangerous. You have an athletic quarterback. So say he rolls out on a boot, and he's got Tariq Cohen as a dump-off valve. So he's running, and that puts the defense in a predicament where they have to make a decision. Do we cover Tariq Cohen, and then Mitch Trubisky runs for 5, 6, 7, 8 yards? Or do we cut him off, he flips to Tariq Cohen, and then God knows what happens after that?
Well, it's like the whole point that you're trying to make here, from what I'm getting at, is that if you have a guy like Mitchell Trubisky who could do much more, then you have much more options on offense instead of just one of two things, a check down or a run, which is what you get from Mike Glennon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you don't feel Mitch Trubisky can do that at this point, I don't know, then maybe you made the wrong choice. Do I think Mitch Trubisky is at the apex of where he's going to be in his NFL career? Of course not. That's silly, because he's not even made a snap in a regular season. But you build your offense around things that make him comfortable. You've already done that for Mike Glennon, who's a veteran in this league. So why can't you do that for Mitch Trubisky, who has a better skill set than Mike Glennon, and that's athleticism.
Right, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, Mike Glennon has shown he can't throw against NFL talent when it matters. And, people will say, well, look at his numbers. He had some good numbers in this game, but they were garbage time numbers.
Please, people, this is a PSA. Don't look at the yardage, because most of the yardage is in garbage time checkdowns. It doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything at all. It's if you throw for 200 yards after you're already down by 47 points, that doesn't matter. I want to know what you do when you're either ahead, tied, or within striking distance of being ahead or tied.
Exactly. And by the time he started getting these yards in this garbage time, the game was already over, and they weren't going to take him out, and he was still in there the whole time, just like in Tampa Bay. He was in there the whole time. He got a lot of yards in the second half when the game was over. So, don't look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just frustrating. I feel as a fan that I'm being disrespected by this organization, that I feel like trotting Mike Glennon out again against Minnesota is a slap in all of our faces.
I agree, and I think that if that is going to be the case, then people shouldn't go. There's a much more important game at Wrigley Field that day. Don't worry about Mike Glennon if he's going to be playing.
Yeah, I was with my cousin's family, and they have a son who's like 9, and he's a diehard Green Bay Packers fan. He lives in the south suburbs of Chicago. He's a diehard Green Bay Packers fan. And I always give him crap about it, but I thought about it for a second. I was like, you know what? The Bears have sucked his whole life.
Yep.
And the Packers have been good. Why would he root for the Bears?
And you know what? I think this is a growing problem in Chicago. I think you're seeing more and more of that.
Yeah, it's either people are just disinterested in football, just don't care other than their fantasy things, but they don't have an allegiance, or you have a whole generation that's growing up not a Bears fan. And the McCaskey family, I just don't think they understand this.
No, I don't think they do either.
They see that there's a whole group of people that are diehard and keep spending money even if the Bears are bad. But eventually, when those people they can't afford to go anymore, they get too old to go, it just, whatever the case may be, is who is going to replace those people? Eventually, you need a younger generation of fans ready to go, and there's going to be a big gap in Bears fandom.
Yep, and I truly feel like the past few years, this Bears fan base, I just feel like it's shrinking. I feel like every year it shrinks more and more, and I'm seeing more and more Packers fans pop up in Chicago who have grown up and lived here that are Packers fans. I think it's more of a thing than some people think.
Oh, I fully agree. I mean, when I see people show up on Friday at work, and it's a casual Friday, you see people, guys show up and they'll be wearing Packers or Steelers or Broncos or Cowboys or Patriots. Is the only people you see wearing Bears gear is you walk up to them and say things like, "Oh, hey, the Bears got a big game," and they just kind of look at you like, "Oh, and they don't know anything about it. They're the ones that are wearing the Bears gear. They're not really Bears fans. They've had this hat for a long time, and they know that everyone else is wearing a team, and they're like, well, I guess I root for the Bears because I'm from Chicago. But they're not like diehard football fans, and it's sad. It's really sad.
And look, it's not that I'm that old. I'm only 23, but I'll tell you, when I was a young kid, the Bears were everything in Chicago. Everyone cared about the Bears, no matter how good or bad they were. Everyone loved the Bears. Now, I think it's so far from that. And this is only, like I said, I'm only 23 now, but I feel like the past 15 years, things are really, really different.
Yeah, and the ownership has to take some responsibility. Is every few years you'll hear Virginia, and it's not even her words. It's people saying, "Oh, Virginia's mad. Virginia's mad." Virginia probably doesn't own a mirror in her house because that's who the person she should be mad at is. I know this was your father's team that he built, but don't you want to see it? Wouldn't you rather say the Bears are back to glory rather than I still own the team that my dad built?
Right.
I don't know. You really got to evaluate that. And she has not had a good tenure as the matriarch of this team.
I mean, and the other thing too is not just her, but it seems like the entire McCaskey family, they're not the ones that are really in the public eye a lot. Most of the time you see them is when they just briefly show them in their suite every game. Other than that, it's not like a Tom Ricketts who's always in the public talking or addressing people, or even Rocky Wirtz for that matter. You don't really hear much from the McCaskies. You really don't.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, look at Rocky Wirtz. His dad owned the team, and he said, I'm going to do this better. I'm going to get the best people at every step of the way in positions, so we're great. So he got the best marketing people. He got the best front office people. He got the best coach. He got the best scouts. And guess what? The results were there.
Yep, it was, he literally undid every single thing about the Blackhawks when he took over. He undid every sin, every evil, bad, stupid doing. He undid everything, and he did it right.
Absolutely. I mean, but to wrap this back around with the Bears is they don't hire the best people. They don't spend the money because this is their bread and butter. Is they have to be profitable for the McCaskey family to make income. It's and I know that if you're a team like the Patriots, you spend the money to make the money, and there's a lot of teams you spend the money to make the money, but the Bears aren't willing to make that investment to make the money because they're already making the money they want to make. And it just trickles down. And getting back to the actual game is this Bears team, they, at every facet of the game, they just look discombobulated.
Yep.
On offense, they knew they did not fear Mike Lennon because their corners could cover all the Bears receivers one-on-one, and he's not going to throw to anybody. You have them stacking the box. They knew what kind of plays the Bears were going to call, and they were aggressive to stop the run. And I think the Bears needed to be more aggressive. And if you're going to say, hey, listen, if we're going to make this run work, is we've got to keep pounding them and pounding them and pounding them and wear them down, because that's how we're going to stretch the field. Do some reverses, make those guys get tired. And that's not what they did. On defense, they knew that there was not a single offensive tackle on that field. They played with a center and 4 guards for the Packers, and they couldn't get enough pressure on Aaron Rodgers. I think they should have they played too many zones, and Aaron Rodgers picked them apart. I think that they didn't have Leonard Floyd rushing the quarterback enough. I didn't think they sent enough blitzes. They just needed. That's the only way you're going to beat Aaron Rodgers is create
And they darn
pressure.
well knew that line for the Packers was depleted too. That's what made my head hurt so much.
Yeah, and they just didn't take advantage. And so that's a coaching issue. You had players not playing well, namely Mike Glennon, which we ripped apart. But it was to the point where, I don't know if you saw, but the Candy Butterfingers was clowning the Bears on Twitter.
I mean, that's an all-time low right there when you're getting trolled and embarrassed by a candy bar.
And the thing is they don't even hire the best social media people because the Bears didn't even have good comebacks.
I feel like that Bears social media page always tries to talk trash and they always just make complete asses of themselves. And that just adds to it being worse.
Yeah, the Bears social media is terrible. It just goes to being the McCaskies not hiring the best of the best at anything they do. They didn't hire the best when they redid the stadium. They didn't hire the best of the best architects because their stadium looks like a spaceship.
I don't like that stadium at all. The seats are kind of comfortable, but that's about it.
When it was time to bring in new restaurants into the stadium, they didn't put the best of the best in. Social media, not the best of the best.
Bruce Arians,
Head
didn't
coaches.
hire him.
Yeah. General managers, the best of the best? Nope. It's at no level of anything do the Bears have the best of the best or even close to the best of the best.
I'm going to revert this back to Tom Ricketts. What did he do? He got the best general manager to come here to be president. He got some of the best companies to help sponsor the team. He got a great plan to refurbish the entire neighborhood and the ballpark. He wanted to be the best, and he has become the best. The McCaskies, there's so many things, and I'm going to go on a mini rant here. I think Soldier Field sucks. I think it is a cement dungeon with a boring presentation, and the worst field that's not even under their ownership, that literally tears apart but has to be kept up by the Chicago Park District that probably doesn't know the biggest thing about football turf. I mean, it's all so half-assed.
Yeah, honestly, if I had a dream scenario for the Bears, it's somebody with deep pockets that wants to win, that wants to make this team better, buys it. I mean, look at the Cubs as an example. Is they went and they got the best facilities. Is their spring training facilities the best? Their minor league facilities are the best.
Their new clubhouse.
Their new clubhouse is amazing. They weren't going to tear down Wrigley Field, but they are making it so much better. Somebody should go in and say, all right, whenever our contract is up for being at Soldier Field, we build a stadium somewhere. And you don't need to be downtown. You don't need to. They're not going to be able to tear that stadium down. There's nowhere they can build a new stadium. You just have to go somewhere else other than downtown. And it doesn't matter. Is because your fans aren't from downtown. Your fans are from the suburbs. That's where the Bears fans that go to the games are from.
And frankly, it's a pain in the ass to get there from the suburbs.
Yeah. So you build a new stadium. You build the dome. I used to make fun of people for having a dome. And then I realized that when I became an adult, that cold sucks. And nobody wants to sit in the cold. And so even if there's a game that might be a good game, it's going to suck because it's in outdoors and it's cold. You can't get the Super Bowl.
I was just going to say that too. They've deprived themselves of so many opportunities business-wise because of the stadium.
Yeah. Build a dome. Put better turf on there. And start there. Start there. You give yourself the best stadium, the best field, and suddenly you build from the ground up. Is the Colts have
Yes,
a
they
very
do.
nice stadium. It's a very nice stadium. I've been there a couple times. It's a really nice stadium. It looks nice from the outside, and it looks nice from the inside.
You know, this kind of brings back to a thought I had, a very angry, jealous thought I had just the other day. You look at the Bears and you look at the Packers. Everything the Packers have is better. They have a better business model. They have better management. They have a better stadium. They have a better philosophy. And they have a better team. I've been to Lambeau Field. Granted, I'm not a fan of benches like they have, like on the actual stadium. But when it comes to the concourses and everything in the stadium, it is 10 trillion times nicer than that cement and cinder block dungeon that is known as Soldier Field.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever sat in Soldier Field in the nosebleed seats. It's terrifying. You really feel like you're going to fall and die.
Yeah, I know.
And
They're awful.
The White Sox, was when they first built New Comiskey, the upper deck seats were like that. It was terrifying up there, and they took a bunch of seats out to change it because they
Right.
realized it was not fan friendly.
And when you think about the top of Soldier Field, and you think the top of the current guaranteed rate field and the one that it had when it was first built, you look at those two, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't understand the whole idea of the nostalgia of Soldier Field. Like, the whole reason to rebuild in that stadium was because of the nostalgia. If that's truly the reason, it doesn't make any sense, because in my eyes, the old Soldier Field is gone. That stadium, it no longer exists. It's completely gone. The pillars were just part of the outside of it. The original Soldier Field as the actual field it doesn't exist anymore. So I don't get that.
Yeah, it's gone. The feel is gone. The team is gone. It's
No Bears legend outside Urlacher and Briggs played on that same field.
yeah. I mean, Papa Bear Hallis is gone. Everybody's gone. Then there's no ties to this. It's now you have the Gross spaceship, and
Gross spaceship that's a pain in the butt to get to.
and I'm trying to see if any NFL team even the Bears have one of the newer stadiums in the NFL, and it is the second smallest capacity of any stadium in the NFL. And
The
that's
Chicago Bears, one of the biggest markets in sports.
and it's short, and in very short order, it's going to be the smallest, because the smallest looks like the Oakland Raiders, and they're going to be moving to a brand new facility in Las Vegas.
Yep. I mean, I know it's never going to happen, but I dream of a beautiful, massive 80,000 seat stadium with a dome. Something like the Vikings have, or something like the Atlanta Falcons have, or heck, even something kind of like what you see in Arizona. Something like that. I would love that.
I mean, all right, so the Eagles are an outdoor stadium, but you know what? Philadelphia doesn't get, I lived in Philadelphia for almost a decade. It doesn't get nearly as cold as Chicago. In most like days in the winter, it's right around 30 degrees. And that's not that bad. It might be a little chilly, sitting there for a couple hours, but it far beats zero.
Right.
But the Lions play indoors.
That's another beautiful stadium.
I haven't been to it. I've seen it from the outside, but it looks very nice. Play indoors. Get a Super Bowl. Build a bigger stadium. You are in the third largest market. You're in the second largest football market. Is because clearly the NFL doesn't care about Los Angeles.
No, it does not.
I don't know if you saw some of those the attendance for the Chargers and the Rams.
I actually wrote about it. I wrote about those attended games. It's not a good look for the NFL.
Oh no, it's really embarrassing. You're supposed to get a bump from your first season, but
Yep.
you're like the second biggest football market. Is you should be able to have at least a 75,000 seat stadium. That would put you. I mean, you wouldn't be as big as the Rams, so you'd be not as big as the Packers. Packers are 80,735, but you would be right on par with the Chiefs, the Saints, the Panthers, the Redskins, the Broncos, and the Cowboys, and the Giants and Jets as that, like, one of the bigger stadiums. And that's what you need. Is move it. Move the stadium out to the suburbs or further out part of the city. Is build infrastructure. Make sure you have a train station right there. Public transportation there. A big parking lot. A dome stadium. Lots of seats. Lots of fan-friendly activities. Those are the things you do, and this team can't. The Bears organization doesn't have the coffers to build it on their own.
Think about this. Imagine if they did something like Philadelphia or Detroit, and you built a nice big complex right next to the United Center, and you had something kind of like that, or at least somewhere out of the city. I mean, there's a number of places you could probably go, but if it was in the suburbs, away from the city, and especially not only is Soldier Field in the city, but it's on the other edge of the city by the lake. That makes it even harder because you basically have to get through the entire city to get there.
Yeah, I when I lived in Philadelphia, they have like their sports complexes. The Sixers are there, the Flyers are there, the Phillies are there. The Eagles are just a touch off of there, but they're all right there off of the two expressways and public and by the L. It's very accessible. They have great big parking lot, and it's not far from a neighborhood area, but it's not near downtown. So it's not like it's in the way. It's all their sports things. If you build off something like that, is you share parking lots. So you don't have to all maintain your own giant parking lot. You have, basketball and hockey. They're not going to have the numbers of, NFL or anything. So you could have both of them at the same time. Baseball's not going to overlap for the most part, and football is only on Sundays, and it's not going to overlap there either. It's the perfect thing, and it makes it really nice to be able to go to the games because all the stadiums are right there. And in Chicago, it's not how it is. And I just, it's never going to be that way because the United Center is a lockdown for two of the teams, and the White Sox have a newer stadium, and Wrigley is going to be there forever. It's up to the Bears to do something about moving.
Right, exactly. And I don't really ever seeing it happening. But, we can dream. And, I really want to like the stadium we play in, but I just think there are so many things that could be better about it, and its size really just limits everything so much. Like you said, a Super Bowl. I know there are other events there all the time. I've been to a couple concerts there, and as a concert venue, if you're sitting in the lower area, it's actually a pretty good concert venue, but for many other things, I know I've talked to some people who were at the Winter Classic when the Hawks played there. And if you were up high, like we mentioned before, like way up high in the nosebleeds, you really couldn't see anything.
I'm looking at the Bears. They have their lease until 2033.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yep.
What are the terms of the lease? Does it say?
The Bears pay $5.7 million a year for rent on a lease that runs through 2033. In return, the Bears get paid. Let's see.
Because the park
That's their
district
rent.
owns the whole facility, correct?
Yeah, and the Bears. So it costs $660 million to renovate the stadium. The Bears paid 38% of that, and then they pay $5.7 million a year in rent.
Now, did the park district design Soldier Field, or did the Bears design Soldier Field? That's what I want to know.
I think the Bears designed it, but it had to get approved by the city, if I remember correctly.
Okay. And so they said they paid for 38% of it? Is that what you said?
The Bears paid 38% of it of the bill. So, but in the end, they pay $5.7 million a year times 30 years. It's $171 million. 660 times plus 171. That means the Bears ended up paying $421 million of the $660 million.
So this rent, is it paying off the expenses of the building, or did they pay for the expense of the building their share and then they continue to pay rent?
They paid that 38% and then they have to pay rent. And
Okay.
and so their lease runs through 2033. So at that point, they can either choose to renew the lease, which I'm sure their rent would go up, or they can figure out a new place to play.
And I would also assume that these renting conditions began when they first went into the new stadium.
Yes. And the Bears couldn't sell the naming rights. The city prevented the team from selling naming rights.
Did they even have the naming rights, or isn't naming rights of Soldier Field like a Chicago thing?
It's just called Soldier Field, and it's always going to be Soldier Field as long as it's that building. Whereas the Redskins make $8 million a year in their naming rights for their stadium.
Well,
And then here's another thing. Even in revenue sharing, the Patriots have half of Chicago's metropolitan population. Less than half is Chicago's metropolitan area is 9.6 million to Boston's 4.5. Yet New England made an estimated $12.8 million in local broadcast revenues, TV and radio, compared to the Bears' 8.3.
wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, boy. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it's basically 2/3 of the money.
I don't think people realize how big that is.
So, realistically, is you should be making twice what they make. It's really sad. And when Soldier Field was renovated, it resulted in 5,000 fewer seats.
Right. I remember the capacity dropped.
Yeah. And then also is the NFL paid the lion's share of a stadium cost construction. The Patriots paid 100% of theirs. The Cowboys 74%. And on top of, so because they paid for most of it, the Patriots get an estimated $9 million and the Cowboys an estimated $12 million a year in profit from renting the facility.
Look at the Bears. Look at all the teams around you, and look at what is happening to them financially and what they're doing business-wise. Are they that oblivious, or do they just don't care what other people do, or they're just kind of set on their own ways?
I don't know. It's really frustrating. I don't understand why they could sell this team for hold on, what does Forbes value the Bears at?
Like, what is it, 2-something billion? Somewhere around there.
$2.45 billion.
Yeah.
So you could sell this team for $2.5 billion. You're set for life. You're set for life. Let the team, have new life. George McCaskey's got to be in his mid-60s. So it's not like he's a young guy either. It can't be fun to be terrible at your job every day when you could be a billionaire.
Right. That's my whole question is he doing this for his mother? And if she's out of the picture, will he have different thoughts on owning the franchise? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe so. Maybe things would change regardless. I don't know enough about how the McCaskeys run their business. I just don't.
Who knows? I really don't know. You can just hope. All you can do is hope. But yeah, the Bears got shown that they are not in the caliber of the Green Bay Packers, and it was another embarrassment in a nationally televised game. Your two defensive captains are gone for the season, and Jarrell Freeman and Quentin Demps. Your quarterback is lousy. And now your middle linebacker, your starting middle linebacker is out for the season. His backup is hurt, and I don't know if they are going to put him out for the season or what, but he's hurt. And now Danny Trevathan got a 2-game suspension today.
Yeah, it's not looking very good for the Bears right now, to say the least.
And let's talk about that hit for a second. I don't think Danny Trevathan's a dirty player. I don't think that was his intention this was what's his face from Cincinnati. Perfect. Like, yeah, maybe he's doing that, but I don't think Danny Trevathan is a dirty player. But damn, that was an uncalled for vicious hit.
Yep.
And I don't think he's a bad guy, but he did a bad thing.
Yep.
And
the punishment fits the crime.
Yeah. He should just I bet I'm hearing rumors that he might not appeal, which I think would say a lot. If
he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
Yeah, he just says, "You know what? I'm not going to appeal. I was wrong, and I'm just going to take this punishment."
And that's what should happen.
The right thing to do.
That's what should happen.
If he's truly sorry, he just takes this punishment and sends an apology to Devontae Adams.
Reach out to Adams, talk to him, try to make things well as best you can, even though it's kind of hard to make up for that kind of thing. Don't argue or fight your suspension. If you take it, then like you said, I think that says a lot about him.
It was just an absolutely uncalled for vicious hit, and when I saw that man's mouth guard pop up straight in the air, I just hoped he was all right. I don't like the Packers, and I hate seeing them win, but I don't want.
You don't want to see anyone get hurt. No.
Yeah, and if they get hurt and they turn an ankle or something in the football, and that happens, I'm not going to be sad about it. But when somebody just gets viciously injured like that, you just you just wish them well. You don't want that to happen. That's just human beingness. It goes beyond sports fandom.
Exactly. It's something you don't want to see, and honestly, it was pretty stomach turning, and I don't even like thinking about it because I couldn't imagine what that felt like. So, yeah, exactly. The thoughts were with him. Hopefully he recovers, and luckily, I mean, obviously concussion's never a good thing, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad it wasn't something much more serious, but speedy recovery to Devontae Adams. But going forward, I don't think the Bears are as bad as they were in that game. We saw them play well against the Atlanta Falcons. We saw them play well against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw them play terribly against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw them play terribly against the Green Bay Packers. So which team are they? Are they the one that's as bad as the second and the fourth game, or are they as good as the first and the third game? And I would probably lean closer to first and third, but they've got to clean a lot of things up.
Yep, there's a lot of changes to be made.
And we know that if they want to keep this locker room, because you can easily lose a locker room when you go on these losing streaks, and if you want to keep that locker room, you got to make some of these changes. And I just think a quarterback change is necessary. It's even if you don't win games, but you see progress and you see growth. These guys on defense are willing to go to battle to help an offense that's struggling if they see they're going out there and battling too. Even if they're not winning those battles, that they're going out and battling too. But if you see a quarterback that can't even take a snap, and that's the big concern about Mitch Trubisky, is taking the snap. But Mike Glennon's not good at the snap either. How many bad snaps did we see from Cody Whitehair last year? And now you're saying that suddenly he's the one that's at fault? Is Mike Glennon can't receive a snap, probably because he's 19 feet tall. But he had that one that ricocheted off his knee.
That was just oof.
You see all these boneheaded plays by your quarterback, and that's just demoralizing to the defense. Is when you turn it over like that, they don't go out there pumped up, ready to play. They go out there going, and that's just, you can't have that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was probably the ugliest moment of the game, I think. Other than the Trevathan hit, that was the ugliest moment of the game.
And I know a lot of Bears fans are throwing in the towel because of their bad record. But honestly, what was the record we all expected after the first 5 games?
At best, like 1-4.
And we already got that one win.
Yep.
Is pretty much everyone expected them to be, after 6 games, 2-4, maybe at best, 1-5, 0-6. They really expected that. That's is everyone expected the Bears to just be miserable, and they're a little better than we expected, and we expected miserable. They've got the Vikings next, and I don't know if Sam Bradford's going to play or not. If he doesn't play, that's a very winnable game. And if he does play, how healthy is he? You've got the Ravens after that, and if you think Mitch Trubisky if you think Mike Glennon has looked bad this year, Joe Flacco has looked worse.
Yeah. Oof.
You get the Panthers after that, and they haven't looked great. The Saints haven't looked good. It's not until the Packers again. So you've got some winnable games now. Now's the time, if you're going to make this change and you want to show progress in this season, you got to make those changes. You've got a week and a half to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing they have to take advantage here. They got to know that they're going to be coming off 10 days rest, and that they are going to have to play a team that's not only really good, but they are going to come off a tough game against the Lions coming tomorrow. So that's kind of something they can't take for granted.
Absolutely. So the Bears need to make these changes, and if it's a mandate from from senior management that Mitch Trubisky doesn't play, then you need to get Mark Sanchez ready to go, because this team's got to be ready to battle. Unless you were BSing everybody when you said we don't ever want to pick this high again. Because if you don't make that change now, you're going to be picking that high again.
Right, exactly.
Because if you're going to wait until the bye, you're going to be, that change won't happen until week 9. So you're looking at maybe you're 2-6, and then what's the best you can do in that 8-8, or that 8-game span at the end? Even if you play really good, 5-3, you're still a 7-win team that's playing amazing in the second half. You got to make this change now, or just admit to the fans that you're stealing their money.
Yeah, exactly. Admit that you have a plan. If that means throwing in the towel, we may hate it, but at least have the guts to admit it, and that's something that they haven't done yet. We don't know what their thought process is half the time. We just don't. They don't reveal it. They won't tell us, and it's frustrating.
And if you want to see the ultimate kick in the teeth, if you're the Bears, is you're going to play Monday Night Football, or the Monday night game against the Minnesota Vikings, and that's the same day as a playoff game. Am I correct?
Yes.
So they'll be playing the same day as a Cubs playoff game, and if you don't start Mitch Trubisky, the Chicago television ratings are going to be higher for baseball than they are for the Bears.
Yeah.
And I guarantee that.
Absolutely.
The ratings for the Cubs will be higher than a regular season game on Monday Night Football for the Chicago Bears. But if you start Mitch Trubisky, the Cubs ratings are going to be the ones that suffer.
Yeah. No, that's very true. And it also kind of depends on when we know, because if they announce the day of that's going to be Mitch Trubisky, then there's really going to be a lot of hype for it. So if they don't, and we already know that it's not going to be Mitch Trubisky, no one's going to bother.
Yeah, it's if you're the Bears, you've got to make changes. You've got to make changes for a lot of reasons, not just for this year, but you've got to show that you are indeed getting better. You're on the right path. You can win ball games. You can, and you've got to win this fan base back.
Yep, and they're going to have to do it soon, because people are really, really getting impatient.
Yeah, there's the worst thing that can happen is a lot of fans stop being angry. They're just done with it. They're just done.
Yeah, they're numb. They're done. They don't care.
And I'm a huge Bears fan, and I find myself numb to it a lot of the times. I don't get fired up when I watch the games. For most of my life, when I couldn't watch a Bears game without my blood pressure shooting through the roof. And now I can sit there and watch a whole game, and you would think that I was just the most even-keeled guy ever. It's just because I don't care nearly as much.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a lot of people feel the same way.
So, I mean, not much else to talk about with this Bears team. I guess, we switch gears and talk about the Cubs.
Yeah, can we please? I've been waiting to talk about this.
But one quick baseball thing first is Brewers lost, so the Rockies are officially the second wildcard team.
The Brewers had a 6-0 lead today, too, and that just slipped away.
So that's good news. So I as much as I wouldn't want to play Colorado if need be, I also don't want to play the Brewers because they've had the Cubs numbers for the first half of the season.
I would be really, really shocked either way if the Brewers got past the wild card game, let alone the division series. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, so we have the baseball playoffs are set. The Cubs will play the Washington Nationals with home field advantage to the Nationals. And the Dodgers will play the winner of Arizona and Colorado. And it's funny because 3 out of the 4 teams were the ones we called after like the first month of the season.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
In the American League, it's going to be Cleveland playing the winner of Minnesota and the Yankees, and Boston to play Houston.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think the Twins really have much of a chance against this Yankee team. I really don't.
It's a 1-game playoff, so anything's possible. I don't think they could beat them in a 5-game series, but 1 game, anything can happen.
And that's the scary thing when you're a really good team, but you still have to play in that game. Like the Cubs, 2015, 97 wins and 1 loss, and you're done. That's the scary thing about being in that situation.
Yeah, it was. So, can Minnesota beat the Yankees in a 1-game playoff? Absolutely. Will they? If I'm a betting man, I'm still going to take the Yankees because it's going to be in New York. But I mean, the Yankees, their starting rotation is not the most stellar, and they got a lot of big boppers, but with big boppers come big strikeouts. And Minnesota is they're like a wily team. They don't have quit in them.
And it's like they're not even like full of that many stars. They've just played good baseball. They just find ways to win games, even if it's not always pretty.
Yeah, so I mean I think that's gonna by and far and away be the better, I think, wild card game. I honestly expect Arizona to trounce the Rockies.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much in their favor. And this is interesting that we say this because historically, I know the wild card has only been around for a few years, the wild card game, I should say, but historically, the road team has won.
Yeah, they have, but I just think, I mean, American League, I think it is a toss-up. I just can't, for how good Arizona is, it's kind of like 2015 where the Pirates were really good and the Cubs were there was a really good team that was in the wild card just because there was another team had an amazing season run in the Cardinals. But is Arizona is good enough. They're as good as any team in baseball.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So
they have a really good team.
I just feel like I feel like they're not a real wild card team, and they had bad luck of the draw with how good the Dodgers started off.
Without the Dodgers, they win that division.
Without the Dodgers' red hot start, I mean, I just think that they're better at every facet of the game than the Rockies, and the Rockies would have some advantage playing in Coors, but that's negated. So I just don't see. I mean, is baseball, anything can happen? I just don't see high probability of the Rockies winning that game,
especially because Rockies pitching really isn't that good right now. So
yeah, I mean, with the Twins Yankees, I mean, I have that as a pretty close, like 55-45% chance. I see Arizona versus Colorado as more of like a probably 80-20.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And because the past few years we've had some really good wild card games, but Yeah, this one can be a blowout. I think if Arizona plays like they do, this could be a blowout. Because like you said, they're not going to be at Coors Field. They're going to be in Arizona. Arizona's a very tough place to play for a visitor. They've played very well at home. JD Martinez is in another world right now, and then you have Paul Goldschmidt, and you got a guy like Zach Greinke on the mound. You got to like your chances.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you got to like your chances.
And it's funny. I wanted to make a note about the wild card game history. You know how I said how historically the road team has had the advantage, and it is kind of weird when you look at that. But I think the wild card itself, being two teams playing one game, the home team isn't always the better team. In this case, in Arizona, I think Arizona is a better team. And this may be my Cubs bias in me, but I think the Cubs were a better team than the Pirates in 2015, but the Pirates had one more win.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something else I wanted to mention. It's kind of flipping gears a little bit, but I think this is going to be right in your wheelhouse. I'm going to read off some blind stats to you.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me, just based on the blind stats I give you, who's your NL MVP? Is slash line 280, 378, 635 with a 7.4 B WAR, 6.6 F WAR, 126 RBIs, 57 home runs. That's player A. Player B, 299, 401, 532 with a 5.9 and a 6.7 WARs, 24 home runs, 96 RBIs. 317, 452, 571 with a 7 B WAR, 6.5 F WAR, 35 home runs, 96 RBIs. 294, 408, 536 with a 6 and a 6.5 WARs, 28 home runs, 72 RBIs. Three more guys. 326, 394, 600 with a 5.6, 6.2 WARs, 36 home runs, 96 RBIs. 305, 369, 579, 6.7 and 5.3 WARs, 35 home runs, 126 RBIs. And 306, 412, 579, 6.1 B WAR, 5.7 F WAR, 36 home runs, and 120 RBIs.
I'd go with the third guy, and if I remember correctly, could you read the third guy's slash again, please?
317, 452, 571 with a 7 B WAR, 6.5 F WAR, 35 home runs, and 96 RBIs.
That would be my MVP, and my guess is that's Joey Votto.
That would be correct.
I think I would vote for Joey Votto.
If I had to vote three, my top three would be Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and Joey Votto.
Joey Votto is having an unbelievable season, but he's getting absolutely no attention because the Reds are terrible. And I think that it's an absolute tragedy right now that Joey Votto is rotting on this awful team.
Just imagine how bad that team would be without Joey Votto.
Oh, it would be wretched.
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal season, and I would absolutely consider voting for him. And the only reason I even hesitate is I get Giancarlo Stanton hit a lot of home runs. And I mean, in stupid fashion, how much he hit home runs. Chris Bryant, I love Chris Bryant. He had a down year. He shouldn't be a finalist.
Even so, he's still putting up some pretty good numbers on base wise.
Oh yeah, I mean, those are not bad numbers. If you told me I have a guy that's batting with a slash line of 294, 408, and 536 with 28 home runs, I'm not knocking that. But is it NL MVP? Probably not. I think Charlie Blackmon. I don't think he was the best. He had a very good season. I don't think he's the best player on his team. You got to knock him off. Um, Rendon
Anthony
from
Rendon,
the
yeah.
Nationals. He had a great year. He's not the best player on his team. He's thrown out. So I mean, your finalists have to be Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Votto, and I could make an argument for any of those guys, and all three of those guys are so unheralded. So unheralded, all three of them, and I mean, Paul Goldschmidt, he plays in Arizona on the West Coast where the East Coasters don't catch a lot of their games.
Yep.
Same thing with Nolan Arenado playing in Colorado. It's a team that doesn't get a lot of attention, and Joey Votto plays on a dog turd team. But all three of those guys have just been so good. So good.
For me, like you said, there's a good case for a lot of those guys, but my God, Joey Votto, it's incredible no one can even recognize what he's doing because his on base is 50 points away from getting on base half the time, and he's played in every game this year.
Yeah, and I think Nolan Arenado, I bump him down because he's at a hitter. He's in a.
Yep.
I mean, I guess Diamondbacks have a hitter's park too, but
Not like Coors.
Coors is ridiculous. So I kind of bump him down.
And here's another thing too. I want to just make clear. RBIs are not the best stat to look at. It's not always your fault if you have guys in front of you or not. I mean, I think that's kind of not a way I'd want to measure.
No. It's kind of like, this, it's a little bit off, but it kind of the same is when Pete Carroll still coached the USC is, when he had his guys in the weight room, he wouldn't let any of them work biceps unless they earned the right, because biceps they might impress the girls. They don't help you on the football field. So they're the vanity muscle. So it's kind of like an RBI. It's one of those things that looks really great, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important.
Right. Because, I mean, look, you can be a great hitter on a bad team, and you can get a lot of hits and get on base, but you're not driving in runs because no one else is getting on base.
And so, yeah, I guess if I'm going NL MVP, I'm going to give it to Paul Goldschmidt over Joey Votto. And my only reasoning is because I have a hard time giving it to a guy on a bad team, even if he earned it, because his team is so bad. And the Arizona Diamondbacks have been such a fantastic team, and he's the best player on the team. I would edge it out to him, but if anybody voted Joey Votto, then kudos, because he deserves every vote he gets and then some.
Absolutely, the guy's been phenomenal.
317 is a good batting average, but that on base percentage is just 452. 452.
And the fact that he can do this and still hit over 30 home runs.
Yeah. The guy is just, he's a phenomenal baseball player. Phenomenal baseball player. And he makes it so, he's so good that no matter how bad the Reds are, you still have to go out there and play them because he's so good. And he makes bad players around him better because they're batting around Joey Votto.
Yeah, and now here's another thing to consider as well. You know, we're looking at the hitting standpoint, and obviously that's one of the things that people look at the most. You also got to look at defensive numbers as well, and the metrics between both Votto and Goldschmidt are pretty close together. So keep that in mind as well.
True.
And, you know, defensive metrics are kind of controversial, but a lot of the numbers are the same. That's got to tell you something.
Yeah, and I apologize that didn't specify this, but B WAR is for Baseball Reference and F WAR is Fangraphs. Not batting and fielding. Sorry, I didn't clarify that. But that, I mean, is Joey Votto is a very, very good fielder.
He's a good all around player. I mean,
he that guy should be right up there with Mike Trout and Chris Bryant as the faces of baseball.
oh, I absolutely agree. Absolutely.
If he played on the Yankees, he would be.
Oh my goodness, and then some.
But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I think you're going to get a lot of old school guys that are going to vote for Giancarlo Stanton because of that 57 home run number.
Yeah, I think so too. And don't get me wrong, Giancarlo Stanton is a great player, but you look at these guys, what they're doing, like Votto and Goldschmidt. I mean, that's MVP worthy right there.
I think so, and I think this is going to be. You're going to see a stark contrast in the voting because you're going to see sabermetrics kind of guys versus old school baseball writers in their voting.
And that's a clash that's always going to create controversy in baseball. It's how it's going to be.
I mean, because in the 70s, this wouldn't even be a competition. This would be Giancarlo Stanton would have run away with this.
Yeah.
70s, 80s, when I was little, this would have been a runaway. This guy hit 57 home runs, 126 RBIs, 118 runs, batted 280.
Oh yeah,
MVP.
absolutely, no doubt.
This is a different game. A different game. So you're gonna see some interesting voting, and I would love to see the votes unveiled to see who voted who.
Yeah, that's always something I'm interested in seeing because you see a lot of the votes and you're like, he voted for him, that's not surprising. He voted for him, that's not surprising.
Yeah. I just wonder who. I think the American League's probably a little more cut and dry.
In terms of MVP voting?
Down to like. Yeah, you'll see. I mean, I think there's less candidates, but you may see along those same lines. Whether it's Jose Altuve or Aaron Judge.
I think Judge is going to get it, and the reason Mike Trout wouldn't get it is because he missed all that time. Remember when he was hurt?
Yeah, that, and he hasn't. He needs to be a better hitter in the clutch games than he is. I know a lot of people that are Angels fans that are down on Mike Trout because of that. He gets vanity numbers in blowout games and non-important games and doesn't come up clutch in some of the bigger games. Yeah, and I think it's going to be a two-person race: Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve. And Aaron Judge is 50 home runs, over a 1 OPS, 330 plus total bases.
Yeah, that's very sexy for the voters.
But I vote Jose Altuve. That guy is
he's another guy that doesn't get the credit he deserves. I mean, he leads the league in batting like year in and year out. He's great at getting on base, and he's an incredible hitter. And he doesn't really get it because he's not really flashy. He just does a great job of hitting and gets on base. He doesn't pound the ball out of the ballpark for 500-foot home runs or stuff like that. He's just so incredibly good at getting on base, but it doesn't really excite people as much. It excites the hell out of us stat people, but to the casual people who want to see the dingers, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's Aaron Judge is having a phenomenal year. I think Jose Altuve is like a team driving engine.
And, potentially this is something we could see in the postseason go head to head.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever seen a picture of Aaron Judge standing next to Jose Altuve?
The difference is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's over a foot. Aaron Judge is 6'7". Jose Altuve is 5'6".
I know it's so funny.
I wonder if guys will find a hole in Aaron Judge's swing. A guy that big, there's got to be a big hole in that swing somewhere.
Well, he has struck out over 200 times.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that guys are going to figure out how to pitch him. I'm not saying that he's going to suddenly pull a Kyle Schwarber and, bat 100 and for a lot of the season. I think guys are going to figure him out a little bit, and you're going to see those home run numbers level off pretty quick.
I think there's going to be a counter adjustment period, and then he's going to make his adjustments as well. I think he's going to be a star for his career, but yeah, you are going to see a lot of adjustments. I do.
Yeah, and that was not me saying he's going to suck. Yeah, not me saying he's going to suck. I just think you can't sustain 51 home run seasons like this with a 7.9 WAR and a 1+ OPS. It's gonna catch up, and there's gonna be that like little bit of a slump, and you're gonna see that like a sophomore slump, and you're gonna see guys figure out how what pitches are out pitches for him, and so his home run numbers are going to go down. But I agree he's going to be a really, really good baseball player for his career, but these numbers are not sustainable.
Yeah.
You still there? Okay, sorry.
Nope.
I thought I lost you for a second. But getting back to the Cubs, last we talked, they were right on the verge of clinching this, and not quite there. Was it 2 or 1?
The magic number was
last time we
2
talked?
because we had to win at least 2 in St. Louis, or the Brewers had to lose and the Cubs would win to clinch, because the magic number went down to 2 when they won 3 of 4 against Milwaukee, which was last Sunday.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so they won Game 1 against the Cardinals, and
In convincing fashion.
And then very convincing fashion, and both they lost in Milwaukee won Tuesday, and then they clinched it Wednesday. So it was nice to clinch on a win. It was nice to see them dominate the Cardinals after they dominated the Brewers. Now they're dominating the Reds. It's nice to see them play this well. But they're peaking at the right time. But there's still some nagging concerns I have, and I'm sure that you share.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, it kind of plays into the matchup as well. That's kind of a big source of it. But yeah, I'd like to hear what your big concerns are.
Jake Arrieta's hamstring.
Yes, that is one of mine. Not in his abilities, but physically, yes.
Yeah, that's a biggie. Another biggie is which John Lester are you gonna have show up? Because he's either been pretty darn good or dreadful.
It was encouraging to see him pitch pretty well today. He started off a little rocky the first inning or two, but then he really came around and started hitting his spots again like we are used to seeing John Lester do.
Yeah, so today he went 5 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts, no walks. It's the walks that are scary. Is you're going to see you'll see lots of hits, lots of walks, and low strikeouts when he's not feeling it.
Right. Now, It's an interesting thing to bring up, and I'd probably be way more concerned about it if he had some really crappy outings against St. Louis and the Reds. In St. Louis, he didn't look fantastic, but he looked better. Today, in his last 2-3 innings, he looked like John Lester, and that gives me a little more confidence in him. And just knowing how good he's been in the postseason in his career, I don't think I'm as concerned as other people are, but I do understand the concern, and I'm certainly not trying to brush his struggles under the rug.
Yeah, so that's my other concern, and seeing today, less of a concern with Lester, but you still have that nagging in the back of your head, some of those real rough games that he's had this year. The other one is, and this one's a little silly, is what do you do with John Lackey?
You know, I was thinking about that one too.
John Lester loves him like he's his brother,
and that was obvious in the
He's
speech in the
a
locker
club
room
hog.
the other day.
Yeah, and the team pretty much loves him. He's not a big fan of Joe, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know.
He takes a lot of jabs at Joe after games. So if you leave him off the roster, you look that can't be great for morale, and you can't really start him because who's he going to replace? And if you put him in the bullpen, look at his first inning ERA
Right.
this season. It's over a 5. So do you just put him in the bullpen in case, Arrieta's hamstring is bad, or in case the wheels come off on Lester and you got to pull him in the first inning and you need somebody to pitch innings 2 through 6? I don't know. Is that he's an insurance policy?
Yeah, I think that's a question that a lot of people are asking. And, well, I made a kind of like a chart, whatever, on graph paper of what I think the projected roster is going to be, the projected 20-man roster, and there were just a few questions I had. Obviously, the biggest question we all know that we're all asking is, what's the rotation going to be like? Who is going to start game 1? Is it going to be Lester? Is it going to be Arrieta? Is it going to be Quintana? Is it going to be Hendricks? Obviously right now, I feel like it's kind of up in the air, but I also feel like Joe Madden has an idea of what he wants to do. He just hasn't said it yet. I wouldn't be surprised still if he went John Lester game 1 and then Arrieta game 2, possibly, depending on his hamstring. And then you have...
not to interrupt you, I read one report that said he may not be ready until games like 3, 4, or 5 in the first round.
For Arrieta.
Yeah, so...
Okay.
I read that. It was only one report, so I don't know anymore, but it's going to be interesting to see.
Well,
if he doesn't start one of those first 2 games, then we know the hamstring's a little worse than we thought.
Right, which is worrisome. Because hamstrings are a tough one.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear your projected playoff roster because there's a lot of question marks I have, and they may be. It may be a thing where this round these guys make it on, and the next round they don't.
Right, and obviously you got to keep that in mind that if they do win this round, then changes can be made. And this projected one that I made has some questions on it, but here we go. Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Russell, Zobrist, Listella, Almora, Hayward, Jay, Schwarber, Happ. And then your catchers are going to be Contreras and Avila. Those are your position players. Your starting pitchers, Lester, Quintana, Arrieta, Hendricks, no particular order, as we've mentioned. And your bullpen, Wade Davis, Edwards, Strope, Dunsing, Montgomery, Wilson, Rondon, and as a 25th man, I did put Lackey on that roster, even though I have some questions there. I don't think Grimm is going to be on the roster. And my one question is, and I don't even know if he's eligible. I'm trying to remember exactly when Rivera came over, but if he is eligible to play on the Cubs postseason roster, would they maybe not have Lackey on that list and carry 3 catchers? In a division series, I'm not so sure, but if he made it to the championship series, maybe that's a little different. So what do you think about that?
I think it's a pretty good one. And the Cubs claimed Rivera on August 19th, so he is eligible.
So he is eligible, yeah. And he's been
He is
pretty
eligible.
darn good.
He has been. I don't see a lot of argument there. Maybe I would consider putting. Oh God, like I don't know if I trust Rondon being on there, but I don't know who else you put on there.
I feel like Rondon, even though you can't trust him fully right now because he's had some elbow problems, I also feel like he's one you can't leave off the roster.
Yeah, I just don't know who you would. I guess Grimm would be the only legitimate option that you could say to replace him.
I'd rather have Rondon than Grimm. I'm going to say that right now. I'd rather have Rondon than Grimm.
And I would tend to agree. I think I would tend to agree. I wish there was a better option, so you didn't have to have Rondon on there. But Grimm when he's bad is real bad.
I know Grimm has had some big postseason moments in the past, in 15 and 16, but just the way it's been this year, I don't think you can put him on that roster.
And I forget who it was. Somebody on the Score, one of the hosts, they were given their roster and they put Leonis Martin on the playoff roster.
Yeah, that was another one too I'm kind of thinking about because I know he would be eligible and look at his defense. His defense is great. It kind of makes me think of when they had Austin Jackson on the playoff roster in 2015. If Leonis Martin does make the postseason roster, that's exactly what he'd be. He'd be put into the game late with a lead.
I just think with Jason Hayward and Albert Almora are both stellar outfielders. John Jay's not bad. I think with the 3 of those, I don't, there's no holes in that defense. I just don't know if Leonis Martin is that significant of an upgrade where, where the other guys have a much better bat than he does.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a roster spot taken up strictly for 9th inning defense. That's all really Martin would serve as. He's not going to go in there to pinch hit. Maybe he'd pinch run, but not pinch hit.
Yeah, he's my one that, if it was a 1-game series, like if it was a wild card game, yeah, absolutely, because you don't need nearly as many pitchers,
right?
And you have the luxury of having him on there. 5-game series, maybe you have the luxury because you're not going to go through as many pitchers. You could probably even go through 3-man rotation on that first that 5-game series. But a 7-game series, I don't think you have that luxury. I think you need to carry that extra pitcher. So it's going to be interesting to see how Madden plays this because I think what you picked is what we're going to see. I would be shocked if it's not. And there's a couple of twists here and there, but I think you nailed it.
Yeah, right. Like my one big question mark is Lackey, and I have him circled, and I have Rivera in the question mark kind of cell of this graph paper circled as well. Because I think if Lackey was not on the roster, I'd have a feeling that Rene Rivera would be on the roster as a third catcher. It's going to be one of those two, but everyone else, I really think you're going to see him on that roster. I think you're absolutely going to see Tommy LaStella on that roster. You're going to see Ian Happ on that roster. You're going to see Rondon and Justin Wilson on that roster. And you're going to need Brian Dunsing, because here's how the bullpen would line up, not counting Lackey. Let's take Lackey out of the equation right now. Davis is your closer. And everything else is kind of up for grabs for the situation. You know Joe Madden likes to play matchups, and you know Mike Montgomery is going to be a long reliever or someone to put out a fire. Same thing with Edwards. It's going to be either he comes in to set up or he's going to put out a fire. Strope might be your regular just setup guy, barring any circumstances, and Brian Dunsing's probably going to play the lefty matchup, or if you need him to go a full inning and you're up significantly, or you're just trying to keep a game close, but it's not like a one-run lead, then you're probably going to use Dunsing in those situations. You need to have a mix of lefties and righties. My other question is Justin Wilson, though I know a lot of people have been frustrated with how bad he's been at times, I think he's still going to have to make the playoff roster, and my question is, when would you pitch him?
I think you only pitch him if you've had to tax the other guys. I think Joe Madden, I mean, look at last year. Joe Madden ran a real tight bullpen. And there's guys that he trusts. Is Wade Davis, trust. Carl Edwards, he trusts. Mike Montgomery, he trusts. I think Brian Dunsing's in that circle. And I like Brian Dunsing.
Yeah.
There's been some spots where, not so great, but I think he's been, for the most part, pretty good for the Cubs bullpen. And being a lefty, he's going to be important, and I think he's going to be right in the mix. Rondon, short leash. Rondon and Justin Wilson are going to be used sparingly, and they're going to have a real short leash. Strope, he trusts Strope a little more than I do, but I don't think the trust is that high on him. I think he's going to keep it real tight. Real tight.
Yeah, I think Strope's going to be a guy, even though he has been really good overall this year, if there's any sense of him not being on his game, then Joe's going to yank him.
Absolutely. And if history shows, he's going to ride Wade Davis. And Wade Davis is going to be in a lot of abnormal save situations.
The good thing about that with Wade Davis is that he's not only has experience of pitching multiple innings in a playoff game, he's also been a starter before, whereas Aroldis Chapman was never put in that situation. So it is a little bit more comforting knowing that Wade Davis, in the inevitable situation where he's going to have to pitch more than one inning, has done that before.
Yeah, and Wade Aroldis Chapman is a fireball pitcher, and he's a fiery guy, but I think he's a little cuckoo. Wade Davis, more even-keeled. I think you're going to see him understand the game better, be emotionally prepared to pitch, if need be, the 7th and the 8th, and have somebody else do the 9th.
He did it for the Royals.
Yeah, I think he's just much more prepared for that. Will we get the same results that we did from Aroldis Chapman? We'll see. But I think he's more emotionally prepared for something like that.
Well, absolutely, because he has experience doing it, and he's succeeded doing it too. It's not like Aroldis Chapman, where when he was put in that situation after a while, things kind of fell apart. There were multiple situations in 14 and 15 with the Royals where Wade Davis had to perform at that kind of level, and he was able to do it. He put out a lot of fires late in the Royals, so that's something that is comforting, knowing that he can do that, and he has done that.
We can all agree that Koji Uehara is not making this roster, right?
No, I didn't even put him on here, and I kind of forgot about him, but you can't.
No. And my other concern, not nearly as high, but Albert Almora, how's he feeling?
Well, he batted today and he hit a double. Seems to be doing okay. It looked bad when it initially happened, but the results came back pretty promising. I don't know how he feels, but I'm going to be optimistic about it.
Yeah, I hope so. I didn't realize that Alberto Mora and Ian Happ are the same age. Seems like Alberto Mora's been in this system for 100 years.
I know. Well, he was the first pick of Theo Epstein.
He must have been real young when he got picked.
Yeah, I mean, he had to be in his teens.
Yeah, had to be. Had to be. God, so many guys born. What year were you born?
94.
Yeah, you're Ian Happ and Alberto Mora's age.
I know. It's crazy to think about.
And Addison Russell.
And he's already hit a grand slam in a World Series, and here I am. I mean, think about that.
And Jen Ho-Sang. Who else? Anybody else your age? Nope. There's only one guy that's my age, I think. I'm older than Lackey. Koji Uehara, I think, is the only guy that's older than me.
Puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
And he sucks.
Hey, no, it's too bad because he started off the year really well, and then I think his just age and durability, the lack thereof now at the age of 44, has just kind of caught up to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's done okay for the Cubs. There's been some spots early on. It's just he's old, and time has caught up to him.
And yeah, in the playoff situation against the best hitters, if you're going to rely a guy who throws in the mid-80s and sometimes gets movement, sometimes doesn't, that's pretty risky.
Yeah, but looking forward is if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, the first series is 2-2-1. Am I correct?
That's right.
So it'll be 2 in Washington, 2 at Wrigley, and then the last one in Washington. And we're going to see some really good pitchers coming from the Nationals.
Now, here's something to keep in mind. Max Scherzer was pulled early today with some hamstring tightness. So, that's something to think about.
It's something to think about, but I would be shocked if I think they were probably really precautious. If there was anything before that, they probably wouldn't have pitched him. And if it happened in that game, I'm sure that as soon as there was anything at all, that they just yanked him in precaution.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, the way this sets up is you're going to see Scherzer twice, and you're going to see Strasburg. Yeah, I mean, unless you hit him that first game, but yeah, you potentially. I mean, if this goes 5, you're seeing him twice. You're seeing Strasburg, and that's 3 real tough games.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be easy. The Cubs have beaten the best of the best before in the postseason, but it certainly doesn't make it any easier. Now, there's a bunch of scenarios that I think we could look at when it comes to facing the Nationals. Let's say they split the first 2 games. And I think that if they split, that's the Cubs have them right where they want them, going back to Wrigley Field. Let's say the Cubs win Game 3, and they're up 2-1. Do you think there's any chance that Dusty Baker would throw in Scherzer again on short rest in an elimination game?
Dusty Baker would, if he didn't get screamed at and yelled at by everybody, and including the player, he would probably pitch Max Scherzer, then Steven Strasburg, then Max Scherzer, then Steven Strasburg. He gives no F's about a pitcher's arm.
Yeah, we all know that.
So I would not be shocked to see him, but honestly, if it came down to Game 4 deciding game, I would probably rather see Scherzer on really short rest than Gonzalez.
Well, because Gonzalez would be set up to be Game 3, though, right?
Oh yeah, you're right, Gonzalez. So was that Rourke?
Yeah, Tanner Roark.
Yeah, so ooh man. I still would rather see a really good pitcher on really short rest than a guy that's fresh.
Right, because think about it. Think about it. Remember the 2015 NLDS. There you go. If you know what I'm referencing.
Absolutely, and I think that's the way to go. And my hope is that the Nationals just choke.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping that.
It's you hope that that a certain former MVP is not at 100%.
Well, that's one of the biggest questions for the Nationals. Is Harper 100% ready for this? And they're probably going to try to be as ready with him as possible because they need him.
Oh, they can't. I don't think they can win without him. I really don't.
I don't think so either.
It's. I think he's a linchpin to them being, and his numbers wise, he's probably not the best hitter this year on the team, but I think he's the linchpin, the driving force of this team's offense being a juggernaut.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Let's look at what's around him. Anthony Rendon, MVP candidate. Trey Turner, base stealing extraordinaire. And Ryan Zimmerman. And you put him in there, that makes those guys even better.
Yeah. He makes everybody better. He's a driving force, and he's a force to be reckoned with. He can hit it to any field. He's got home run power. He's got speed. He's just a really good baseball player, and you have to account for him. You have to, and you can't pitch around him because there's other guys there that can hit the ball as well. I just think him being healthy is really important, because if you go back to historically, I mean, not historically, but over the last 2 seasons, is the way Joe has played the Nationals is he's focused on not getting beat by him.
Yeah, I mean, remember that 4-game series when they pitched around him every single time and it worked every single time? And that's due to part that Ryan Zimmerman is awful against the Cubs, historically, knock on wood. So, keep that in mind, and they may have to go to that kind of strategy again. My biggest fear in that lineup, you could probably guess who it is.
Yeah, a certain somebody that crushed us 2 years ago.
Yep, with that grin on his face that he always has. Oh, it bothers me.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so I think this is the most scary to fans, but I think Bryce Harper is the linchpin, and if
course,
if you control him, you minimize their offense, and then you gotta work those pitchers deep. You gotta work those counts deep and get to their bullpen. I think that's just
right.
The key.
And this is why I say this. The Nationals are very good, and I think they have a pretty solid chance of beating the Cubs. But at the same time, if the Cubs exploit all their weaknesses and they have the right strategy, then the Nationals are a very beatable team.
Yeah, I don't take anything away from the Nationals. They've had a fantastic year, but they do have weaknesses, and they've maximized their strengths to minimize their weaknesses. That bullpen is that bullpen isn't that good, but they've had such good starting pitching that's pitched pretty deep and enough offense to give themselves a cushion that they haven't had, to be in as many close games as they otherwise would have. Come the playoffs, when scoring goes down, I mean, that's historically scoring goes down in the postseason because of tighter leashes on people, more situational pitching, things like that. It's you get less runs, and when that, so you don't have the offense that's going to be being able to carry your bullpen as much, and I don't think you're going to tax your starting pitching as much, because it comes down to, would you rather get one game of 7 innings out of a guy or 2 5-inning games? And I mean, as Dusty, he'll do 2 9-inning games. It doesn't matter. But, I think you're going to go to the bullpen earlier for the most part. And that leads itself to an advantage for the Cubs. But it's going to be a tough series. It's a good team.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's look at every category of what a team is made up of. I'm going to list it, and I'm going to say my opinion after your opinion, and I'm going to ask you the following things: advantage Nationals or advantage Cubs. That sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll ask you first, and then I'll give my opinions after I ask you. First of all, offense.
Nationals.
Starting pitching.
A 5-game series, Nationals.
Defense.
Cubs.
Bullpen.
Cubs.
Managing.
Cubs.
I pretty much agree with all that. I think offense is kind of closer to even, but if all those Nationals players are playing at their top notch, then yeah, they're pretty dang scary, especially if Bryce Harper is up there. It just, for me, it really depends on how good he is, but if Bryce Harper's Bryce Harper, then yeah, I'd agree. Advantage Nationals. Obviously, I think the biggest advantage the Nationals have is their top 2 starting pitchers in Scherzer and Strasburg. Because right now, the Cubs have one of the best postseason pitchers of all time, but we don't really know how good he's going to be this year with his inconsistency. We have another guy who's really good but has a hamstring issue. Our probably biggest trustworthy guy is Hendricks, because he's had a great postseason career. And Quintana, as good as he is, he's never pitched in the postseason, so we don't know exactly what we're going to get. So I agree with you there. I think Cubs defense is far and away better than the Nationals. Far and away better. I think our manager, I will take Joe Madden over Dusty Baker every day of the week. So yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you on everything there.
And my one thought with the was saying the Nationals in offense is, I average out of the whole season. Over the whole season, I think the Nationals had a better offense, but especially in the first half of the season. But if you go the last month, Cubs far and away better than the Nationals offense. Go ahead.
And I think there's a thing to think about here. I think the Cubs have more spread out weapons than the Nationals, but the big weapons the Nationals do have are pretty darn good, considering you have Bryce Harper, considering Daniel Murphy somehow became good in the second half of 2015, considering, Ryan Zimmerman, even though he struggled against the Cubs, he's still a really good player, and Anthony Rendon has been amazing this year. So I think the Cubs probably have a bit more depth, but in terms of the strongest weapons, the Nationals really, really have some top guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And in starting pitching, I say Nationals because this is a 5-game series, and I think their top two are very, very, very good. But if this was a 7-game series, I'd go Cubs because Cubs are 5 starting pitchers deep. John Lackey is their worst pitcher, and the second half he's put up is really good. Really good.
Yeah. No, you said that perfectly. I mean, that was on a number of levels. One, what you just said, they have more overall depth, but in a 5-game series, you can get away with having 2 really great pitchers. Also, keep in mind that if it was a 7-game series and it was back and forth and you're managed by Dusty Baker, you're probably going to be throwing 100-plus pitches the first time around, and then you're going to have to come back and do that again, possibly on shorter rest than usual. So that would have been a big advantage for the Cubs if this was a 7-game series. But in a 5-game series, you're definitely right. It's advantage Nationals.
Yeah, because you're going to see, assuming this goes 5, is game 1's on a Friday. You're going to see Scherzer. Game 2, you'll see Strasburg. 3, you'll see Gonzalez. 4, you'll see Roark. And unless it is a deciding game, then you might see Scherzer again. Because if Dusty Baker is one thing, is he's not afraid to empty his clips.
Not at all.
And I think that was the big criticism of the Orioles manager last year. But game 5, you'll see Scherzer again. You'll see Scherzer twice and Strasburg once. It's just an intimidating thought. You just got to figure out a way to hit him because a lot of people haven't done it this year.
Also, I added how the Cubs have a lot of good depth. The Nationals have some pretty solid guys on the bench, including guys like Wilmer Defoe and Adam Lind. I think those are, things you have to keep in mind there. I still think the Cubs have more depth, better depth. So just a little note there I wanted to say. Also, I'm looking at their starting rotation. And you have 3 really good pitchers. Oh my goodness. Scherzer, 2.55 ERA, 0.907 WHIP, arguably the best in the National League. Gio Gonzalez, he's got a 2.75 ERA this year. And Steven Strasburg has a 2.52. That's kind of, that's not going to be easy. But after that, Tanner Roark and Edwin Jackson. I wish this was a 7-game series.
Yeah, that's I would love that because those are automatic wins. But Max Scherzer, when we needed him to beat the Brewers, he didn't beat the Brewers. Just remember that.
And I'm also going to say this. The Cubs have had success against Max Scherzer in the past. I'm not saying that's automatically going to change things, but the Cubs have had success against him in the past.
Yeah, we've had a long show, so I think we should end it with what's your prediction? Because next time we talk, it'll probably be 2 games deep into this, getting ready to go to game 3.
So you want me to give a series prediction or the first 2 games?
Let's do both. What do you predict after they've wrapped up the first 2 games in Nationals Park?
I think that's going to be a 1-1 split going to Wrigley Field.
And do you think they beat Strasburg or Scherzer?
I'm not sure if they actually beat one of those guys. I think it's going to be a thing where it's going to be a battle of pitchers, and then the Cubs are going to get to their bullpen.
I think Cubs win game 1, lose game 2. I agree with you. It'll be 1-1, but I think they win game 1, and I think they get to Scherzer. Not a lot. I think they get it. They get enough, and you get John Lester locked in. I think John Lester goes 7, and shuts down the Nationals. I think I'm going Cubs win that game 3-1.
I mean, that sounds like a postseason win right there, a typical postseason win.
And for the series,
I hate predicting and jinxing it, but this is fully knock on wood. I'm gonna go Cubs in 5.
that's mine too. I think this is 2 really even teams, and this is I think both of these are just the matchup is so good. I think it goes 5, and I'm going Cubs victory.
I just feel like with the experience and the power that this Cubs team has, the thing that drives them and their manager, I think that is one thing that is just really going to help them prevail. And I know the past doesn't mean anything, but until Dusty and the Nationals prove they don't choke, you almost assume they could choke.
Yeah,
because they've had multiple leads in the past in the division series and have lost it.
I think the biggest X factor for the Cubs is they don't have Dusty Baker.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to note. And, again, I could be completely wrong, and the Nationals might just trounce us. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe the Cubs trounce the Nationals. Who knows? But, they're not a rival team, but my goodness, would I love to beat them. Because being the first team to lose the Nationals in the playoffs in their history would kind of suck.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would.
And also losing again to that every time I see Daniel Murphy, I just get angry.
He's got a punchy face.
And I'm sure he's not like a really bad guy or anything, so sometimes I feel bad, but I agree. When I see him, it's like Uncle Buck's hat. Just the sight of it angers me.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. We've got Alex and I both predict 1-1 by the next time we talk, and Cubs taking this in 5. Yeah, let's go out there and cheer on our Cubs. And thank you guys so much for listening. Please subscribe however you listen to us podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. Hit us up on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swirsky Sports, Facebook.com/Swirsky Sports, SwirskySports.com. And thanks so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on the plains. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.